Hi, and thank you for tuning to the Fight Zone podcast. I'm Seth, and in this episode I talk with Hayden Absalom and his coach Stuart Ashby from TMG MMA in Brisbane. Hayden is the first Australian IMMAF Youth MMA medalist from the historically first Youth MMA World Championship held in Rome, August 2019. He is coached by Stuart Ashby in TMG MMA in Brisbane, who is very experienced both in fighting and coaching. You can train and follow the TMG MMA team on Instagram at TMG MMA, Facebook at TMG MMA, or at www.tmgmma.com. I made the trip to record this chat to the TMG MMA training facility in Red Bank, Brisbane, and if you're in the area, it's an awesome place and team to train with. As you will note, Hayden is apparently keen to long speeches, and I, with his coach Stuart, hardly was able to take the word from the young champion, but I still hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. This episode is brought to you by tamborinesprings.com.au. Tambourine Springs Water is a local business situated on Mount Tambourine. Their water is bottled at the source of their exclusive, privately owned spring. The spring, being 163 meters deep, provides access to a free-flowing underground stream, which is where the premium quality springs water comes from. It then goes through a very strict sediment and UV filtration process to ensure the final product remains both consistent and the brightest quality. It is then bottled and stored until it leaves for the client home or office. Most water companies in Australia all cart their water from a contractor before being processed and then bottled, which leaves lots of room for contamination and foreign bodies entering the water. At Tambourine Springs, it's a matter of minutes from when the water is extracted from the spring into a bottle, which is then sealed and stored in a cool, dark environment. The spring water is naturally bacteria-free and passes all quality tests prior to filtration. Despite that, Tambourine Springs water have one of the strictest filtration systems so that there is no room for error when it comes to your drinking water. They do not add any chemicals whatsoever to drinking water. The only thing that filters are doing is removing sand and sediments that comes up with the natural water and any small sort of sediments. The three-stage system is there to ensure no bacteria has found its way into the water. When you purchase your water from Tambourine Springs, you know you'll receive the best spring water Southeast Queensland has to offer from a local family on a mission to provide the best service and quality. Water companies are often blamed with a good reason for polluting the environment with plastic bottles. This is not the case with Tambourine Spring water. Your water is delivered to your door in 50 or 20 liter bottles, and your used bottles are collected, disinfected and refilled again. So zero plastic waste goes into the environment. Me and my family is also using Tambourine Spring water way before they decided to sponsor the podcast. By experience, once you drink real spring water for a while, you cannot drink from the sink anymore or any commercial waters from the supermarket because it stinks and has bad taste. Ridiculously enough, in Australia you can mix 50% of the water with tap water and label and sell it as spring water. This is not the case with Tambourine Spring water. I personally know the family who owns it and have been numerous times in their small factory to see my water being bottled straight from the spring after the filtration process. Majority of my team also purchased their drinking water from Tambourine Spring water. Find out more at www.tamborinesprings.com.au or call 0434 952 449 to order your water today.
Why do we fight? To protect home and family. To preserve balance and bring harmony. For our kind, the true question is, what is worth fighting for? The Fight Is All podcast.
Alright, here we are. So let's start with you. Just present yourself and your combo sports story, how long you have been training, and how that lead you to the Rome World Championships in IMMAF.
I've been training for 6 years and training for a little bit at a different gym. Then we can't move to TMG and started training with MMA. Then
have you been training MMA before that? Was it MMA or?
Just a little bit.
Sweet.
They come here, started training MMA, then the Worlds come up, started training for the Worlds and then went over.
Sweet. I'm gonna ask you, coach, now. How you guys deal with the IMMAF rules? So they removed the head striking for youngsters. Was that how you was training anyway for the youngsters? So you had supposed to adjust because of these rules?
Yeah, we still do head strikes here with the juniors, not very often and very light, but we still do that because first of all we're a self-defense. Martial arts is a self-defense, especially for kids. But yeah, he's done quite a bit of kickboxing and kick light, which is similar to kickboxing in ISCA and WKA. So there was a little bit of adjustment. In Australia, there isn't much MMA for children, or kids, so they don't get the opportunity. So basically, we do BJJ rules, and then we go off and we do kickboxing rules. So we had to mould that together. Not a lot different because I am an MMA coach, and this is an MMA gym, so we still train in that. And everything I do for kickboxing and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or submission grappling is always with street self-defense and MMA in mind. So we didn't have a lot to adjust. The head striking, yeah, we just did a lot more sparring and pads with just body strikes to set up the takedowns, which can be a lot harder. We realised that they weren't going to want to strike over there much, so yeah, really concentrated on that body striking, leg kicks, setting up takedowns and things like that, and it did work quite well for him. He got a couple of takedowns straight up, which was good.
How many fights you had on the Worlds?
I had 3 fights.
3 fights? Which countries you?
I versed America and 2 Ireland.
So how the fights went? How's your strategy? How you get your wins? And
I was gonna go striking for a little bit, but then they started rushing in, so just started going for takedowns.
Yeah. So you end up playing more like ground game?
Yeah.
Which age group you was competing at?
12 to 13.
12 to 13, so the youngest
Yeah.
age group. Yeah. So as much as I remember from the rules, they're not allowed to touch the neck at all. Pretty much
Yeah.
even have to pull out guillotines and stuff.
Yeah, guillotines, things like that. There was very limited submissions that they could do. I think they could have elaborated on it a bit more, had a few more, especially put it a little bit more in line with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu age group and submissions.
I'm with you in that because I absolutely support having the youngster rules, but I think the rules can be more flexible because now with coming towards the Queensland Open IMMAF, and I'm dealing with the organization. It's quite hard and to manage to deal with the different rule set because they're kind of changing a bit in every age group. So
yeah.
I'm thinking how to try to avoid any referee mistakes, because imagine the competition day is running, so you have this age group competing, this age group with the adults age group competing, so it's kind of could be more free rules, because most of the kids, even my students, they already compete with free rules in just grappling comps.
Yeah.
Everyone does that, so I don't know, they could think more about that.
Yeah, I think that, it's up to the coach to prepare their kids or their fighters for whatever show they go on and the rules set on it. I think if you kept it, most kids that are going to be doing it will be doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu comps because there's not really anything else around. So they're going to be used to that rule set. But, just your basics, I think still is all right. I think, neck guillotines and on the neck you got to be a little careful with, but I think we can elaborate a bit more. I think we can expand a bit more in Australia. We seem to have a bit of a fear with kids doing MMA in Australia and holding them back. When Hayden went up against an American and he did quite well with him, but you could just see that the kid had I don't know, 40 or 50 MMA bouts before he even came to the Worlds. Where in Australia, Hayden was flat out getting any. There's a couple of little shows here and there that do some modified
You just started
ones.
pretty much this to involve like youngsters MMA.
Mm.
Well, I'm born in Russia and coming from Eastern Europe. The thing is, that's the thing that I was speaking with the IMMF guys here. It's the thing is like back there before MMA even came, we was competing combat sambo very hard like, all the time. Every other month we have like amateur MMA or combat sambo. Because normally if you do combat sambo, you go and do MMA. It's just very similar rules. When, combat sambo has like more harsh rules in some aspects. So you just pretty much like compete the same similar rules without the jackets, of course, and the headbutts are the thing that changed the game. But it's very similar rules. The thing is like in Russia and in Eastern Europe, people compete more as amateurs before they even think about turning pros. What I found out here, which actually surprised me when I came like 5 years ago, is people are so eager to turn pro, and they do that before they're actually ready. There's some pros here that would have hard time, like against some amateurs on the world stage. So I think it's very important to have this, this platform where amateurs can actually gain experience. Make all the, as you say, like, yeah, you say that, yeah, a prepared fighter is good, but you can see the experience kicking in someone who has like just a bit more competition experience. You cannot train that completely just in the gym environment. You need competition.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. You need the competition, and they need to be competing in the similar rule sets regularly, not just, okay, let's prepare for this, because it doesn't matter. You can train, we train it a lot, but at the end of the day, you go up against someone that's had 40 MMA bouts, whatever rules they are, but they're MMA bouts where he's just been able to do kickboxing or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you're going to be at a disadvantage. Now, I agree with you. In Australia, a lot of them are very keen to go pro, and then even amateurs are very keen to get ticket money before they even start getting paid to fight, to get something back, which is, I think, is completely wrong. They should be doing it for the love of it, and the money just becomes a bonus, because you're never going to get rewarded enough money for the amount of time you've put in the gym. Even though you're getting paid for that fight, you don't have to train for the fight. You get paid for the fight, you don't get paid to train. But yeah, very, very keen. So I'm hoping maybe with IMMAF or IMMAFA stepping up again and putting some of those amateur shows on for the kids as well as the adults, and them realising that it's a world organisation, world ranking as an amateur, and worrying about that and their fighting rather than the money is definitely a good idea. I trained in Tiger Muay Thai, and yeah, what you were saying about how many fights I had, and I was trained with a guy from Norway. He'd had 25 amateur fights with IMMAF, or their organisation where he was from, and you could see his skill experience, was like our guys that are in pro, and he's still only amateur, and he's like, I'm not keen yet, I'm still ready to go. Mexico, IMMAF's really big in Mexico, same sort of thing. So
yeah,
we need to.
Run by friends of mine. I've been working in Mexico. I was working for the Sambo national team there, so I know the guys, and now they're running IMMAF, so they're really into the sport, so they're doing a good job there.
Yeah, and that's why boxing's always been so strong. It's got a very deep amateur. Amateurs are amateurs, pros are pros. Where in MMA in Australia has always been a fine line between amateur and pro, and sometimes some jump back and forth. So yeah, hopefully IMMAF now, with Richard on board, and that can step up and start getting some shows together and things like that. It'll be really exciting.
That's the plan. And they're like the idea is to have regular competitions, so we can actually build these guys, guys like Hayden and the other young guys that are stepping in. So we have time to build them until eventually, if as it is the plan, that 2027 amateur MMA gets in the Olympics. So we have enough time to build like hopes like him to be an Olympic level athlete. So so we have the Gold Coast competition on 30th of October. Then 30th of November we have the Sydney, it's a New South Wales Open. Then the national team camp for the May next year, Oceania Open is going to be here in Gold Coast.
Okay.
It's close to us, so hopefully, I don't know how it's going to work with youngsters, but hopefully we have youngsters as well there.
I think that's the other thing. It's great you guys are stepping up and doing all those shows. We've just got to get past that, just that wrapping them in cotton wool and not letting them compete in MMA and stuff like that. So hopefully we can get the kids together and people can start getting them in and getting them competing too, because that's the other thing we find, which is hard with people like Hayden and Randall and a few of the other kids around Australia that really step up and train. It's hard to find other opponents for them. So hopefully with the rules set, and one of the things which was great that Hayden and Paul, his dad, took him over there to compete wasn't just for him to compete, but hopefully for or shed a bit of light on kids MMA in Australia, and that it's not that barbaric and it's quite safe, and encourage a lot more coaches and parents to put their kids forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I insisted, and I'm happy that Richie and the other guys from the national team accepted that the competition to be on mat. First of all, because mostly because of the youngsters. Because I think, and I have this experience that parents don't want to put their kids to find a cage if they have this barrier behind them, between them. So it's kind of psychological, like barrier, just another psychological barrier for letting parents kids to compete in MMA. Even the rules are wired, so when you don't have the barrier, you kind of feel better connection with the guy competing, better connection between parents that probably most of them be watching, better connection with the coach. And there's something else for the more adult categories where they have like the head striking, so it's harder to knock someone on the mat. Right? Because you should either land a clean punch, or you cannot really push someone next to the cage, corner him, and they land strikes. He'll just go and get out. Obviously, he's losing the fight, but he's not getting hurt. And by my understanding, that's the purpose of amateur MMA. Yes, to have like a hard competition, but the guys not get hurt, because every single one of them, it's a hope. Like after like 5-6 years, he might become like champion. He might represent the country. So the point is not to have like my idea behind it is like not to have like a show. It's more to have like a competition, like similar to jiu-jitsu competition, or to our sambo competition. It's more open, so it's like you still fight, but it's less injury prone, especially for youngsters, especially for less experienced fight. That's why we also involve this CB and A class for the adults. So C class are people who never been champions in any combat sport, which means pretty much rookies. B classes are people who have been champions have win championship competitions in any combat sport except MMA, which means like if you have been champion in jiu-jitsu, yes, you go B class. Been champion in kickbox, you go B class, because that's kind of melting pot, and you kind of adjust your technique. And then A class is when you compete for the national team. You have full rules. So C and B class, they don't have ground pound in the head on the ground, which still lets to execute pins, like keep the position, like land ground pound in the body, which shows that obviously you keep control on the position, and you free your hands, to land punches. But in the same time, you don't really get hurt if you're losing. So that's the point. But okay, A class is obvious, people who want to qualify for the national team. So
I think it would be a good idea, because of a lot of the international ones are in a cage. I agree with you there. That's a great concept, and I think it's a good idea. We come back to that issue again of them competing overseas against international competitors that compete in the cage, that are used to that environment. The other thing to think about too, which I think it's a good idea with the open mat. I'm happy either way. I can prepare my kids however I need to prepare them for, or adults. But the other thing is, why is boxing still so strong, and kickboxing so strong with juniors in rings and stuff like that, and they're throwing elbows and things like that. I believe in keeping my kids safe and keeping them healthy and strong for the future in case they do go on to be somebody or want to make it a career. But it is funny that we accept the kickboxing and we accept the boxing in those rings, and kids are now wearing elbow pads and knees and doing nearly full Thai rules in Australia now compared to 10, 15 years ago where they didn't. Yet we're still having that trouble with what you said before, that barrier between parents and coaches and their kids. And yeah, look, that's really good. Maybe the A class, once they get to the Australian team, they can start looking at competing in the cage a bit more or something like that, so they are prepared.
It's going to be in the cage because it's official international competition.
Yeah.
Well, for the moment being, we decided not to make the regional state competitions on mats.
Yeah.
Just to get a bit of momentum, and we'll see how we go.
No, I think that's a great idea, and yeah, we look forward to getting our guys in there, and hopefully everyone else can do it as well. And they can all get overseas like Hayden did, see the world.
Are you preparing now for the next competitions? What you're looking towards now?
Looking forward to going back overseas and maybe getting a gold next year.
Good. You preparing for the Gold Coast Open now?
Yeah, a little bit.
How training is going?
I'm good. Still getting back from the time set overseas.
Oh, you have a bit of jet lag?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, at least I'm like that. If you travel west, you have jet lag. Travel east, you're getting a bit better. But when you travel west, it's just killing you.
Comes back.
How long time took you to get rid of the jet lag when you traveled to Rome?
I was just sleeping most of the time and just getting used to the time over there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he got sick too when you got off the airplane. He was sick for a few days. So the time over there, he didn't quite have the best prep. Before he went over, yes, he did. But when he got over, he didn't get the best prep. So he actually did really well considering the sickness beforehand and stuff like that as well. So, yeah.
How many days before the actual comp you land there?
We landed, I think a week before the comp.
Week before? Okay, that's good. You had a bit of time to adjust. Is that your first international competition?
Yes.
Good on you. You did really good. That's really good achievement. Getting like medal from your first international competition.
Yeah.
Pretty good. So, how you like to hold to do your fight best? You know, you like to strike more, or you like to grapple? Which is your favorite area?
Grappling.
You like to grapple?
Yeah.
Your favorite move?
Probably a triangle.
You're pretty tall guy. I can see that this triangle's coming. Almost towards me. Yeah, short.
Yeah, him and Randall, he's 12 and Randall's 13, and they're both nearly taller than me. So
yeah, what's wrong with these kids? What's in the water?
Yeah, I just make sure they eat really well, and the training. The training and the eating, they've just exploded this last year. It's unbelievable. I can't believe it. But yeah, saying about his favourite move, his favourite move is triangle, but he really is good at switching between triangle, armbar, then back to triangle, then back to armbar. So it becomes quite tricky with those long legs with his opponents. So yeah. But yeah, he's looking at doing the Gold Coast with him, and I've got a couple of others to go down there as well. So yeah, that should be good. So yeah, he's just getting back into it. Probably next week we'll be right into it, preparing for that. Yeah.
Sweet. Let's speak about TMG. I follow you in Facebook. I know you have like pretty good kids group. I see pictures and videos.
Yeah.
So let's speak about the general how the gym came up and like the groups you have and everything.
I started 25 years ago in MMA, and my first fight was on Chris Hazeman's shoot wrestling show in '99, and fell in love with the sport and just went through. And then 2011 decided to open up TMG, Tough Mother Gym.
How you come with the name?
Tough Mother Gym. It's a bit embarrassing, but a few people referred to me as that. So it was just something different. So yeah, everyone had all these words and stuff like that. So I just went with that and just changed the spelling a little bit. And yeah, it just took off from there. And we went from a 200 square meter facility to a 550 square meter facility in a couple of years. Everything was going really well. Had a heap of adult fighters then, and not so many kids actually. It was quite the opposite to what it is now. And yeah, just I ended up paralysed after my last fight in 2012. Not the fight, but the week after, and I didn't even do anything wrong. It was just probably neglect on my body. So that's when the adults really started to grow in the gym, because I walked away from fighting then and really just concentrated on the gym, and you become a lot less selfish when you're not fighting and you're a gym owner, because when you're a fighter you got to think about yourself a little bit more.
It's very hard. I was doing that for years, and it's hard because it's very hard, you know, to be coaching. But if you compete, you have to concentrate on yourself, because the fight is coming. So normally your fight is like quite hard because you're fighting on a bit higher level than the guys. But at the same time, you know, like the guys who are fighting in their fights as important for them as yours is for you. So it's very hard combination. You want to work that, and you get the better understanding for the sport, because you know you start working from the other side, not only as a fighter, and you know start understanding the process, you know. And but it's very hard experience to get.
It is, and as you know, everyone works during the day, so when you're taking classes at night to try to keep the gym going, everyone else is, all the higher level guys that you could train with are training as well somewhere else, so it's hard to get that group together during the day. So yeah, the gym took off then and we were doing really well, and then unfortunately we got broken into in 2017 and got put out of business.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that, like, I don't know if I saw it on the page or something, like someone break into and like was spraying over the equipment.
Yeah, burnt, set fires. A few companies in that industrial area we were in got done that weekend, and that's one of the reasons I didn't go back as well. A bit more security here and things like that. So yeah, that really burnt me, and really didn't want to reopen, and went to Thailand and fell back in love with the sport, training over there at Tiger Muay Thai, and made some good friends over there, and came back and reopened here. And it's a lot smaller, but the atmosphere is really good, and really happy with it. It's great, and yeah, the kids have just taken off. I've had Kane Wellman for a while. He's been South Africa, America a couple of times for ISKA, Arnold's, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, now Hayden, and got Randall, he's coming up, he's strong. I've got Talia, and they're all very lucky. They're all around the same size, same age. I've got some younger that are biting at the heels coming from. They've got some above them. They're just at a really lucky spot at the moment. As you know, as a previous fighter, you don't always, and your size, you don't always have that luxury of people behind you nipping at your heels or people above you that can put you in your place. It's sort of like, or they're too big. So yeah, they're at a very lucky spot. I'm at a lucky spot in that sense too for them. Makes my job a lot easier, and yeah, I just treat them like people. I'm very understanding of them. I nurture them. I try to teach them life skills as well, and so it flows on into their schooling in their life. And some of my biggest successes aren't necessarily in the ring, in the cage. It's them at school with bullies, or just life, everyday life. I've got one man here, Rasa. He's been with me for 6, maybe 7 years, or yeah, nearly since I opened it. He was 15 when he came to me. He couldn't do a push-up, getting nearly suspended from fighting at school. Now he has a job. He's 20. He's had a few fights. He helps out with the kids. You know, he's a decent human. And Tyler is another one. I've had quite a few come through like that. So they've really been my biggest successes really, and that's all I aim for, and then the rest just comes for them enjoying it, and yeah, bonus, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I think that's the main thing when you're coach, especially when you get older, you start to appreciate how uh, the sport is tool that helps you know to change people for better. It's not so much what everyone achieves. Of course, that's part of it, but it doesn't really matter if someone becomes like regional champion or something, or just like Hayden really achieve something, you know, international. It doesn't really matter. But as long as that they keep pushing, they won't out by hard work and you know, dedication, and cut the stupid stuff of their daily routine. They can actually, you know, do something that is hard. I think that's the main thing that makes this everyone who gets involved in the sport seriously like better as a, just as a human, because just trying to achieve something that's so hard, because I cannot imagine something harder than overcoming another person who is prepared to beat you, and you have to face this guy in a fair combat and defeat him. I cannot imagine something harder than that. That's the hardest sport in the world. Like, I mean, like any combat sport. Like, what's harder than that like mentally and everything. That's I think that's probably the ultimate challenge for a human, you know, to face
Yeah,
another man.
definitely. And I think even from the training point of view, what I say to people is one of the hardest things mentally is this sport, because you go to the gym and you lift that weight, it's the same weight every week. You have your ups and downs. But then you're going up against someone that has their ups and downs, and you have your ups and downs. So it's very hard to always gauge where you're at if you're worrying about who I'm submitting or who I'm beating. And you just need to realize that if you're at training, you're improving. It might not always feel like it, might not always be a lot, but you're improving, and not to always gauge yourself on winning and things like that. And that's what I do with the kids. I'm very strong with believing in training them to win, but it's not about winning on the day. It's about them doing their best. But I don't believe you enjoy what you're good at. So I believe in training them to win. They have the tools to win. Now it's up to them. On the day, I don't worry about the winning. I just tell them to push through the fear and not freeze, and be the best they can be on the day. And that's what seems to work well. It's not fair to send them into a competition unprepared. You wouldn't send them into a test at school unprepared. So it's the same here. So I prepare them well. Yeah, we have our laughs. I'm quite serious sometimes too. But they enjoy it, and they enjoy it because they're good at it. Like anything in life, if you're good at maths, you'll enjoy maths. If you don't no good at English, like I was, you're not going to enjoy English. So, yeah, so I believe that. But then on the day, it's a different story. If we get up to the finals, maybe I'll just let them know and just give them a little bit more of a push. But yeah, it's always about preparing them to win the best they can be, but it's not always about that on the day. It's about them being better. I've had kids come off and they know they've won gold, and they come off and they're not happy. Little Jacob, he's one. I think even Hayden's had a few. They've come off and they know they've won gold, but they know they're not happy because they froze somewhere or didn't do something they could have done to finish it. You know what I mean? And it's not me, no one being harsh on them. They just know, because they're human beings like us. You're a fighter. You would have known when you competed or wrestled, you hop off training or something like that. You know, I froze there, or I should have done that, but I didn't because I was scared I'd get submitted or something like that. You just want to do the best you can and improve, you know. So yeah, that's a good concept with them, and yeah, Hayden pushes himself all the time, and you know he's has his moments, but he's actually quite a easy kid to train. He puts effort in all the time, and yeah, he's always keen to learn new things, and yeah, he's always yeah, puts in 100%.
You're smiling at that. What do you have in mind? When it's hard, when you feel it hard when you train.
Don't really find it that hard when I'm training, because I know most of the stuff, and if I do find it a little bit hard, I just try and maybe get it. If not, just ask coach.
That's it. That's
he doesn't have trouble, like pushing wise. He'll push through. He's got a heart as big as anything. He'll just push, you know. It's more, I guess, the technical stuff that he sort of has a bit of trouble with, and the drills and stuff like that. But when it comes to, you know, the hard, getting into it, yeah, yeah. How do you, you know? I think that's what he's sort of asking, like, how do you push through that when you're really tired and Randall's wanting to smash you and you got to get up and do what you need to do.
Just keep going.
Fair enough. Grinding.
Do what you have to do. Yeah.
How did you feel mentally, you know, because I remember my first international comp was full of emotions when you see the guys from the other teams and the on the national champions, you know. How you feel emotionally, you know, what you felt by going to this competition. So because many of the people, like, to be fair, quite a few guys in Australia have your experience now at your age. So how did you feel that through your eyes, you know, the coming there international competition, facing like other nations champion? How was you feeling about that?
I was feeling very nervous because I've never been to such a big competition.
It was how big it was very big, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
How many cages was there?
There were 3 cages.
3 cages. Okay, so tell me more about your feeling. Don't be shy. Probably just me and your coach talking. So so we just 3 of us. So nothing to be shy for.
I was nervous watching the fighters I was going to go up against next, like the American kid.
Which fight you was in as number? Was you from the first fight, or it was a bit later?
I was a bit later. I was beat the 2 island kids, and then the American kid had a versus one of the island kids. He was going really well, and then started kicking the leg kicks. So I was watching the leg kicks and like really nervous with what he was going to do.
How did you do with the weight cut? Do you cut weight, or you just compete on your walking weight?
Oh no, I didn't cut weight. I was just didn't eat that much over there and dropped down to a lower weight division.
What's your walking weight?
I walk around at 54.
54. You compete at
52.
52. So you just drop down 2 kilos.
Yeah.
How long did this took you?
Pardon?
How long it took you to get rid of the 2 kilos?
I didn't eat that much over there because I got sick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that kind of helped you, to cut the weight a bit.
Yeah, we don't cut weight here. I'm not a believer of that. I just let them train, and they sit where they sit, and they compete where they compete. If it's a kilo off or something like that, and it's a big event like that, maybe. But when it's 2 kilos, something like that, these boys are pretty lean all year round. So to start mucking around with that sort of thing at their age, I'd rather, that's probably why they've grown so much, because I just let them eat heaps, eat what, you know, within reason, eat heaps, eat what they eat, they train, and we see where they end up.
I'm with you on that. I firmly believe you shouldn't cut weight before you get 18. Well, because your body is growing, and seeing, you know, like my fellow wrestlers and who are cutting weight from I was also cutting weight all the time, but I think, and I read, you know, a couple of research, it kind of, you know, stops your growth. It's, you know, just because of the, you know, like not nurturing your body enough of the young age, you just don't develop so much.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's why we're shorter than him.
Yeah. Yeah. They all of the kids here seem to take off. It must be something in the water, I don't know, but the training seems to work well for them, so I must have that. I have that pretty right, and yeah, the food, because they all just take off. They just, yeah, you just see them. It's unreal. But yeah, weight cutting. Look, you have them trying to put saunas or hot bath them to get a kilo or something off, or try to get them skipping in a sweatsuit or something. And kids, they can't adjust their heat properly, so that can make them very sick. And like you said, you're just cooking their organs or taking away from their growth and things like that. So I just keep them training firmly, keep them lean, and eat plenty of good stuff, and then yeah, we see where they end up. But I don't think there's too many out there that worry about weight cutting these days. I don't talk to too many coaches that worry about it. But
not youngsters at
yeah.
least. I think most of the coaches now, they understand that like weight cut is not really beneficial for your performance at that age. So not many of them are really getting kids into weight cut.
No.
I would not. I wouldn't like put any of the young guys.
Look, even my adults as C-class fighters or whatever don't cut much at all, you know. And then as you get, yeah, that's right, you know. Yeah, and then that's what we were talking about before with some of the amateur adults, you know, keen to get paid and become pro so quickly. They cut, you know, it's hard sometimes because you're trying to keep some guys that don't know if they want to do it forever or not, or the C class going up against guys that have cut 10 kilos. Well, if that's how it is, that's how it is. I'm not going to get my guys when they're only going C or B class to cut 10 kilos. You know what I mean? So we cut a little bit, but not that much at all. So, you know, you're going to get that when it comes along, and some of our guys still come out on top. They end up training or doing themselves. But if they end up going to a high level of pro and stuff like that, they may have damaged themselves a bit along the way too.
I think there's optimum for every person. It's very personal. So some people might cut more than others, despite being the same walking weight. So, and I know by myself, I was cutting a lot normally, but there is a stage that if I cut too much, I'm not only not that strong, I'm even slower. Like just my speed comes down. So then I know like I did too much. So there is optimum. So I mean for the adults, not for the youngsters. I'm totally against cutting weight for youngsters, but for adults, like if you are there's optimum limit when you perform good. But if you go out of this limit, you don't perform. If you like, if you still not lean enough, you don't. So there's kind of limit that you have to find for yourself. It's very personal thing.
And yeah, you got guys like Geordie, the fight dietitian, and that. You know, they got to bring a lot of science to it now. So, you know, I think you got a lot of the local fighters that are using him. Oh, not just local, but a lot of people using him and getting good results from that. I think that's great. A lot of these guys that are just doing a bit here and there off the internet and stuff like that. Yeah, you got to be careful. You know, a lot back in the day when I was fighting in 04, 05 through to 08 and stuff, I used to cut 8 kilos. That was a lot back then in Australia, you know, and it didn't affect me. That was pretty good, but did a lot of research on that and things like that. So yeah, it is a personal preference, but it is some things that you do come up against. But yeah, we haven't really come up against many kids with our guys, which is really good to see. Yeah, definitely. So yeah.
Have you been competing much before that?
Yeah, I've competed quite a few times.
What kind of competition experience you had before this competition?
I did a couple BJJ competitions and kickboxing.
How did you go there?
Pretty good. Got some gold, silver.
Good. So do you put them still to compete in kickboxing and BJJ? Obviously you do, because I see you often on the comms.
Yeah, I start them off obviously with the grappling and the BJJ, the non-striking. My juniors under 11 pretty much don't do any striking comps. They do mainly body striking, but they do some head striking every so often, and which works really well, and they're very well monitored because we don't want that too hard. So yeah, we start off with the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then we start to look at the kick light in Iska, and when Waco was running up here, I found them good to teach them properly to move and things like that. And to come across a different type of kickers, especially in this day and age with MMA, like obviously the Conor McGregors and all the Taekwondo background guys. So they, Hayden and Randall and Kane have gone into ISCA and they come up against a lot of different karate aspects of attacks and things like that, makes them think to work around, get their footwork working with that, and then once they've done a few of them, they'll start to do some proper kickboxing shows, which I find works well for them. And like I said, MMA, it's pretty much been non-existent, so we haven't had much for them to do. So a few's popped up, so let's see how we go next year. Hopefully it keeps going and we get a few more coaches and that. But yeah, that is the progression I normally use for the kids anyway. Similar for the adults too. Yeah.
Fair enough. I kind of with you on this page as well. Like, I think the grappling provides like competition experience with minimal injuries.
Yes.
So that's the best environment just to start with, because weight striking is both things things develop so fast, and especially when you don't have the experience, it's some people just forget to react,
Yeah, exactly.
just walk. So yeah, grappling is more safer, and then you can see which one of them are really keen, I guess, for this and that,
and how they react under pressure. So you know, okay, he needs a few more grappling comps before I put him in stand up. I like to then put him in a stand up fight too, just so they aren't going into MMA and then get hit in the face once and then they just want to go straight down, and then they more chance of getting hurt even more, getting freaked out to try to get a takedown. So they end up having to have some fights under pressure where that's all they can do is stand. So if you're up against a high level wrestler or jiu-jitsu guy, then they're used to standing, or they're also used to the ground. So it adds those aspects, and it gives me an idea of who they are, and you guys, you've coached, your guys really, but sometimes just every so often you get surprised and you watch them when they go in and they fight stand up and you go, oh my God, he's actually standing and banging and he's not freaking out. I thought he'd be like trying to grab his legs even though it's kickboxing. So yeah, so same with the kids, it gives you a bit of an idea. They're not ready yet, or they are ready and stuff like that. But yeah, none of this punch, takedown, punch, takedown. The sport's evolved a lot now where and it's hard to get people down, so you need to be used to the strikes. You can't just jump on your bum and crawl along the ground and try to hope someone jumps in your guard.
Especially as you have been, in the sport for a long time, and you see it involving that. First was the wrestlers like wiping everyone, just taking people down, just pounding them. Then you see everyone learn how to wrestle, and then everyone start, just to strike up. So everyone stops to do takedowns because people start training, counters of takedowns, especially the standard ones.
Exactly.
The wrestling ones, everyone learn how to counter them. Everyone start doing wrestling. Then everyone start doing just striking. Now you see like black belts and like wrestlers, they're actually striking than rather than wrestling. And before that, like even before wrestling, there was the jiu-jitsu guys who was submitting everyone, but then the wrestlers were how to do submission grappling. And
exactly.
And now it's like way more balanced, and sport is evolved so much. And by my opinion, now it's absolutely separate sport from these basic styles. It's now style by its own, like of course you can always benefit from as you said, like doing like grappling, but MMA as a sport now is evolving on its own as a fighting sport, as a style.
Exactly.
Despite that, you can have so much styles.
Look, yeah, and we're an MMA gym. I've always been an MMA gym, and we train MMA. Like I said, everything's for MMA. And when we do kickboxing or we do BJJ, it's a small percentage of time we train out of our way for that. Or if we are doing a lot of BJJ and stuff like that, it's always MMA or combative thinking. It always has been for my whole life since I've been doing it, martial arts life. So yeah, even though we go off and do those little things here and there, we're not consistently doing it, and it's a small way out, and I don't change too much up for it as well. It's more of an experience and things like that. But yeah, look, I like everyone, grew up in the martial arts life, so I was 19 or whatever when I started, but UFC 1, and I watched all of them, all the way through to about 120, and you really do see the evolution, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I suggest anyone that really loves the sport, they sit down and they do watch one right through to them and watch the different champs come through and watch the evolution of, like you just said before, the jiu-jitsu guys, then the wrestlers, then the strikers, and then the boxing and wrestlers came on board, and then, you know, then the jiu-jitsus came back, and then they started striking again, and now, you know, what really opened my eyes in Thailand was they're just athletes. You know, when George St. Pierre came on the field, on the scene, he was like the new evolution. You know, okay, let's compare him to Matt Hughes, who he took over from, who was just a hard-working grinder, ground and pounder, just grind people away. And then he came in, he had his kicks, he had his footwork, he had his movement, he had his wrestling, he had everything. But the biggest thing was he was an athlete. And that's what I noticed in Thailand. There were these everyday, not everyday Joes, but everyday fighters, no champions, just everyday fighters, pros, doing one-handed handstands and, you know, walking along, doing all this sort of stuff that, you know, that really athletic young guys these days. And that's what it's come down to is, you know, everyone's nearly on par with technique and stuff like that. It's more so now all these other little extra things that they're doing, the strength and conditioning, you know, and George St. Pierre he's always, and that's what makes a martial artist different from a fighter. He's always evolving, even though he's not fighting still.
Yeah, and he was doing all these gymnastics and all this like stuff that like kind of traditional, but that kept him in edge, like being so explosive, and even his weight cut he was cutting a lot of weight. Every time you see him in the cage, he's kind of double the other guy.
Oh, yeah.
You see them, you know, like when they touch hands, and then you see the other guys like half, you know, how his back is just like was huge.
Yeah, it was really a turning point in the sport. Yeah, and in all of it. Yeah, definitely.
And I think that because now they're so athletic, that what makes them able, you know, to do so much amazing things. Like recently, Anthony Pettis, like jumping off the cage.
Yeah,
you know, like, you see that things in movies. Like
that's
who
right.
can imagine someone gonna do that in a cage now?
Yeah, exactly,
crazy
exactly.
what they do, you know.
They're just, yeah, that's the difference, you know, they're all like that. I think, you know, obviously if you're bringing up a fighter, you train them like you're building a house. You keep your foundations, get them exposed to other things, but keep your foundation strong. And then as you build up a house, you start to change it a bit and things are different, and you end up, you know, working more on what they're good at and things like that, and adding in all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's such a big game changer now, all the stuff you do outside the martial arts now, which is a big thing as well.
But it's a lot of science now getting involved as well, as in conditioning, in mental preparation, in dieting and everything.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Do you use someone else to help you with that thing? So you manage it by yourself? How you dealing with
Yeah,
all
the dieting I still help the kids and that out with. I've also gotten Geordie, the fight dietitian, in a few times to do that. Do up something for them, but basically, yeah, look, just healthy food, really. You know, get them to eat what they can eat, and yeah, I sort of help them out with that. I do strength and conditioning as well. I don't worry, they don't do too much. They do their shuttle runs, they do their skipping, you know. So kids are pretty active as it is, so you only need to sort of just help them out a little bit. Comes with eating. Yeah, I just help where I can help. I don't get so obsessed with it as I used to originally, and say make sure they're eating this, and this, because the other biggest thing in Australia with kids and competition, football and cricket, is losing them through their teen years and as adults, is losing them. So you've got to try to find that fine line of, you know, not cracking down too hard, that they still have a life, but they're also still taking it seriously and getting what they need out of it, which is a big thing.
Sweet. Maybe that's a good moment to say how people can get in touch, find your gym, find you in Instagram. I have your Instagram profile put in link in description, but maybe just say how they get in touch with the website and everything.
We're at Red Bank in Queensland. We've got the website www.tmgmma.com. We've got TMG MMA on Facebook, TMG MMA on Instagram, so you can follow us, have a look at what we're about, what we do. Keep an eye out on Hayden and see where he's heading and what he's doing. If you don't see him up there much, maybe come along, give him a kick up the butt to start training or something. But no, he's pretty good. That's basically it. You'll get a good vibe of what we do and where we're at this stage. We train hard, we have our fun, but we are serious about our training, and it's really good. Yeah.
And you want to say something around this one? No, you're pretty quiet.
Yeah, you don't get much out of him.
You're just looking towards the next train, aren't you?
Yeah, he's a pretty quiet guy. He likes to say his words on the mat or in the cage. Yeah, definitely.
That's true, champ. Right, guys, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thanks for coming. It was really good.
And good luck on your next competition.
Thanks.
Looking forward to see you on the mats at the Gold Coast. And thank you for your time, coach.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for listening to the Fight Zone podcast. Subscribe in your podcast app to receive the next episode, where I talk with my friend and student Amir Mood. We will switch the topic from fighting to his funny story for his supposed to be spiritual trip to Nepal that happened to be a funny experience with some hallucinogenic mud honey, and he also gives a shady travel hack on the top of it. So don't miss the funniest episode I recorded up to now.